Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we're going to be reviewing the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. So just so you guys have a little bit of background on my general feelings about this whole thing, I was really not expecting the first Ant-Man movie to be very good. It just seemed like it was going to be very tough for them to sell it, and then it turned out that it was a really good movie. Lots of fun, super entertaining, really solid film. One of my personal favorites out of the MCU. I really enjoyed that. So I was going into this one thinking one of two things. One is the sequel can't be as good as the first one. The first one, arguably one of the stronger origin story movies in the MCU, so this is going to be very difficult to maintain that kind of momentum. Or it's going to be like the rest of the MCU movies, where the sequel is actually much better than the origin story movie. That's kind of been a trend. So could have gone either way, and I'm happy to say it didn't go the first way. It's actually really solid. It was a lot of fun, and I think most people were expecting that going into this movie. After having seen the first one, they were expecting a nice, happy, fun movie. But we did just have the whole Infinity War thing that happened, so we weren't quite sure how it was going to play out. And it does tie together very well, but I'm not going to talk about any spoilers in this movie. This movie doesn't have enough depth that it really requires a lot of spoiler discussion. The connection to the Avengers is a very minor thing. It's at the very end, the direct connection anyway. So you don't have to really worry about that in terms of this review. And then in terms of the individual plot elements, there's no spoilery type stuff that's particularly worth talking about, so I'm not going to get into that either. We're just going to spoiler free the whole way through. You guys are safe if you haven't seen the movie, and if you just want to see the movie first before you watch this review, then that's probably a good idea anyway, so you can always just come back and watch it whenever you want. Okay? Alright, let's go ahead and get into it. The main plot for this movie is that they're going to kind of continue from the first movie. They know that Jan is still somewhere in the quantum realm. They're going to try to save her. That's basically their entire motivation throughout this entire film. There's lots of little things going on throughout to kind of culminate to that, but that's the overall gist of it for the good guys. And then the bad guys, this is probably the biggest problem for the movie, and I'll kind of explain it as we go through the rest of it, but there aren't really villains in this movie. There's a Ghost, the lady in the weird suit that we saw in the trailer, and she's not a protagonist. She has her own motivations, but she's kind of separate from the main plot. And then there's also another guy who's just kind of like a regular guy trying to make some money by selling some PIM tech. Again, he's a problem. He's not a good guy, but he's not a direct antagonist to the protagonist. So we have two different sets of villains, or one set of two individual villains, both kind of getting in the way and trying to stop the good guys from doing their thing without even knowing that they're doing it. So it's just kind of like there's not that much of that good guy versus bad guy struggle. It's more like those two are part of the overall scenario, which is the bad guy, because obviously there are problems with getting Jan out of the quantum realm. And that's really about it. It's more of a situational villain, which it sounds bad. It sounds like it would be a really big problem for the movie. I don't think it really is. I think it could be better. Obviously, a more direct villain is kind of traditional, but I don't think this was a problem. I think the way they worked it was okay. It felt like normal. It didn't really give me too much of a problem. The Birch guy, played by Walton Goggins, he was fine, and then Ghost was really annoying, but we'll get to that when we get to the cast. So yeah, not necessarily traditional good guy versus bad guy thing, but I think it works out well enough. Could it have been better with a bad guy that was more of a direct bad guy? Maybe, but this movie is more about the good guys anyway, and the supporting cast around them, so I think it works out. I know a lot of people are probably going to give it problems, say it has problems because of the bad guy thing. I personally don't feel that way. I could understand it though. So one of the good things about this movie, one of the particularly good things about this movie is the writing. Just like the first one, it's got a really good balance of humor and everything else. The drama that's going on, people are crying, people are happy, but there's a lot of humor mixed into this, which we've seen not work so well in a lot of the Marvel movies, or at least recently a lot of the Marvel movies. It's basically spot on for this movie. It doesn't feel out of place. Not everything is like a laugh out loud, just crazy joke, but it's still humorous and enjoyable the whole way through, and it never really gets in the way. It fits. The way they handled it, just really well done. Now, some of that might just be due to the actors being able to deliver it properly, but I'm going to say a lot of it has to do with the writers. They wrote a movie where the humor fit and it felt right and it didn't detract from the rest of the stuff, which was still fairly serious stuff, and it's just really good. No problem at all with that. The dialogue in this movie, really good, especially with Michael Pena. I mean, he's just, I wonder how much he ad-libs in these things, because he talks about a mile a minute, and he's always hilarious. I don't know how, I guess he's just funny, like, I don't know. But yeah, the dialogue's just really good, the writing's really good. The only real issue with the writing is the lack of a main villain. So you could take that or leave it. It kind of comes down to what you like in a movie. I kind of like it just on the merit that it's not like every other superhero movie or every other good guy versus bad guy movie. It's not quite so archetypal, which I think is okay. So I think the writing's really good. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the cast, though there's not gonna be a whole lot to say because we pretty much know what we're getting going into it. So Paul Rudd, still fantastic. He fits the role wonderfully. He does a great job in the role. He plays off the other characters perfectly. No issues at all. Absolutely great choice for Ant-Man. Then we have Evangeline Lilly, who's playing Wasp, and she kind of steals the show this time. Like, she was good in the first movie, and she was even better in this. It could have just been a Wasp movie with Ant-Man. They could have titled it that, wouldn't have it sounded as nice, but she really did a great job. She did a good job in the action scenes. Everything else was good too. Like I said, she just kind of stole the show, so that was kind of awesome. I mean, I really like Evangeline Lilly personally, so that was good for me, and the scenes for the Wasp were particularly good. So everything was good on her part too. We also have Michael Douglas playing Hank Pym. Same as before, a little bit more screen time. He does a good job. It's Michael Douglas. You know what to expect, so that's fine. We have the ghost lady. I don't even know her name. Or Ava, something like that. Really cool suit, kind of a cool superpower type thing, but really, really freaking annoying. Like, totally irritating almost all the time. Anybody could have played it. In fact, I think this lady did a couple things that were kind of weird. Like, she's got this issue that makes her phase in and out, and I'm not going to get into it any more than that, but there's this issue, which you saw in the trailer, that she can phase in and out. But she also just acts weird in a couple scenes, like super duper weird, very strange. Doesn't really make any sense at all. So it's just very strange the way she was carrying herself in some of the scenes, but also it's just like, she's not the kind of bad guy that, like, good bad guys, you want to root for them at least a little bit. You want to understand them, and while you understand this lady, you don't on a personal level, because she's just a butthole. Like, she's mad, and so she's gonna do what she wants to do to make herself feel better, screw everyone else. Like, that's not a good bad guy. It couldn't be less interesting. It's just, I'm doing what's good for me. Well, okay, fine, but what are your motives? It's better for me. Screw them if they die. Well, that's boring. It wasn't good, and the way she carried herself was just irritating, not in the acting sense, but in the writing sense. They made her an annoying character, at least for me. Didn't care for her. But we do have the other bad guy, Birch. I think his name was Birch. It could have been... No, it's Birch. It was Birch. Played by Walton Goggins. And I like him from Justified, so I'm probably a little biased here, but I think he fit the role nicely. I think he did a good job. He's comical, still kind of a bad guy, but again, he's not really that bad of a guy. He's just not a good guy, and he's gonna get his job done, which is to try to steal the stuff and sell it. So he's like your typical arms dealer type bad guy. So not like super villain, but a bad guy, but he's still likable because he's funny and says funny things. So I thought he was good. We do have Lawrence Fishburne. He plays Goliath, and I'm not gonna talk about him too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but he does a good job. It's not particularly impressive, like pretty much any seasoned actor could have played this role, no problem. But he does bring a nice flavor to it. He does a good job, and he suits the role of Goliath. I could see him being Goliath, so that was pretty good too. I guess technically I shouldn't move on from the cast category without talking about the supporting cast, in particular Michael Pena. Just like the first movie, really, really good. They almost make the supporting cast just as important as the main cast. This movie maybe even a little bit more, at least with Michael Pena. He gets more of a front and center. The other two guys not quite so much, but they all still fit really well. The writing even for the side characters is just so well done. It's so balanced. The humor in particular, really good. They interact with the bad guys, the good guys, and everything just, it flows so nicely, it feels so natural, and still is very funny, even though it's in a serious situation. So, supporting cast all did a great job. Michael Pena, in particular, did a really good job, so can't go wrong with that. This is, of course, a superhero movie, so despite the actors and how good they are at acting and everything, we still need the action scenes, and in this day and age, most of the action scenes are CGI anyway. We'll get to the special effects, but the acting isn't necessarily as important in the action scenes because half the time it's not real people. But in this movie, the action scenes are really, really good, and they do a really good job of making it feel real, which is, it's weird because half the time they're only this big. Half the time they're full size. So obviously it's not like real people doing it, but it doesn't give you that sense. Like you feel like they're actually doing it. They do a good job with the choreography. They do a good job blending the practical effects with the special effects. Very nice action scenes in this movie. Interestingly enough, most of them are for Wasp, which I think is okay. And I think they really utilize the fact that she has wings. She does a whole lot of really cool stuff. Very acrobatic fight scenes. It was just awesome. I really, really liked the Wasp fight scenes. They were super cool. She does a lot of particular things in the fights that just stand out. They're really, really awesome. Ant-Man doesn't get a whole lot of action, really. He's more of a comedic character in this movie, even in the action scenes, because his device is broken, so he's doing weird things and stuff like that throughout the different fight scenes. He's big or little or whatever, but not so much at his command. So his scenes are interesting enough, but she definitely steals the show in the action department too. So I thought that was awesome. Some people might get mad because it is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it really was more just the Wasp with some Ant-Man, but that's going to be down to what you like. The Ghost fight scenes, which were some of them, not all of them, but some of the fight scenes did involve the two main heroes and then the Ghost character, which was really cool. But the phasing thing we've seen before. They did a couple things that were kind of unique and kind of cool with her going through things and then hitting things and that kind of stuff. But if you saw the second Matrix movie, she is the same character, practically speaking, as those two twins in the white suits. Like, basically they said, that's kind of cool, let's do a lot of shots like that, which is fine. I mean, she doesn't get like the weird dreadlocks and stuff, but it wasn't particularly unique or original. It was just fine. Some cool fight scenes for sure. Didn't really stand out as much as I was hoping it would. Again, even with that kind of superpower, or it's not really a superpower, but the phasing, Wasp outshined every character in all the fight scenes. Just, that's the way it was. And then the last thing I want to talk about, the special effects, which, like I said, are kind of tied heavily into the action scenes. But obviously in this kind of movie, you have a lot of special effects because you have a lot of shrinking things, a lot of giant things, just that kind of stuff. A lot of green screen, of course. And it's all really good, except for one particular instance. Like the tiny little car things, they all looked really good. The cars, little ones going up against full-size cars. I'm not so sure about the physics on that. First of all, shrinking a car or even a building with people and things inside, not sure that would work perfectly. But also having a full-size car shrink down to be this big and then still be able to outrun a full-size car, not so sure about that. But anyway, special effects wise, it was great. It was really, really well done. Really nothing stood out as being fake looking, except for one scene where he's big and she's normal size and they're really close together. It looks very green screeny, which obviously he didn't get giant size, so they had to do a lot of work on that. Sometimes like their line of sight isn't quite lined up with where it should be, and weird shadows and things, but there's one small scene mostly that stood out, so it's not a big deal. Most of the special effects were just really good. So that's about it. My overall thoughts on this movie are, it was a lot of fun. In fact, I might argue, if I was so inclined to have an argument with somebody, because I'm pretty sure it would result in it, this was more fun to watch, more enjoyable, and a better overall viewing experience than the last Avengers movie, than Infinity War. And not just because it ended up so sad, which I don't think it did, but just because overall it was more fun to watch. Like if I had to pick one to watch again, I would probably pick this. I have no connection to Ant-Man, so some of the Avengers scenes definitely are cooler. I mean, you have Thor and all the main characters. Like I connect to those a little bit more character-wise, but this movie as a whole, probably more fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. Good acting, good comedy, good fight scenes. Needed a better villain, but I can get over it because overall the villain was their situation. The other two just kind of played into it, and it worked for me. So I definitely recommend it. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Go see it if you haven't. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. If you're going to spoil something, please, 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 please let us know that your comment is going to have a spoiler in it. Don't just post it, especially the thing at the end, which ties into the Avengers. Do not spoil that. I purposely avoided talking about that. Don't spoil it. I will delete your comments. Don't do it. Don't ruin it for other people. So that'll do that. I will say this. The movie does line up almost exactly with Infinity War, timeline-wise. By the time the two movies end, their runtime, they're synced up. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to talk about anything else. So that's it, guys. If you saw it, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. No spoilers. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Come back. We'll talk. And that'll do it, guys. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up almost every single day. We talk about movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And in the meantime, keep collecting.